Hello everyone, welcome to the Photographers Network channel. My name is Frank, and today in this video I'm going to be reviewing a collection of photographs from one of our photographers from one of the groups on our Facebook pages that I manage, and he's been absolutely kind enough to let me review a collection of his images for you guys on this channel right now, so stay tuned. So just to let you all know, I haven't actually opened the folder up yet. I've just seen the Google Drive link that he sent me, and I'm gonna open the folder up now, and we're gonna be kind of like reviewing this together. It's gonna be a little bit of a informal video, I guess you could say. I kind of want to make this a bit more casual, so this is gonna be the first time I've seen these images, and already I can say that they are very good. I'm very, very impressed with Adrian's collection. I think his photography skills are really, really well done. But let's start with this first image. Let's start with this first image right here. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think this image won a contest on one of our Facebook groups. Must have been under like the wildlife category, but I'm pretty sure we chose this because the photograph is a really well structured image, and we all loved, us as admins, we all loved the idea that he had captured something that had a lot of mist in the background, and it kind of gave a nice separation between what's in the foreground and what's in the background, because what's in the foreground is ultimately a little bit darker. It's a little bit it has a little bit more shadows rather than what's in the background. What's in the background is actually light, and that kind of stands out to me, because usually it would have been the other way around. You'd want the eagle and the tree, the main subjects of the image, to be much lighter than what's in the background in order to make it stand out. However, what Adrian has done here is actually he's reversed that, and that's what I find so interesting about it. And if we focus quite well, we can actually determine that this image, even though it's kind of a wildlife photograph, and you put it into the whole animals category, wildlife category, I would also argue that if you take away the eagle from this image, you actually have a pretty strong landscape photograph. And there's a pretty good understanding of how horizon lines work here, because if you think about it, the image is sectioned off into three parts, and the bottom part, which is the nice line of yellow and brown that separates the rest of the image, which is above from it, is really, really nice. So you have one line of yellow and brown, then you have the second line in the corner where the snow, you can sort of see that's the middle part of the image, and then you have the top of the image, which is obviously the trees at the top of the image, and the eagle, which is the defining factor, I guess you could say. So there's a pretty good consideration of how he's composed this image, I would say, as well. It's very, very sharp, and of course the main subject is interesting because, like I said before, it's dark, it's quite shadowy, it's not necessarily as, the subject isn't necessarily as clear as you would want it to be, but I think it works in this case. So I'm going to give this image, if I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'm going to give this image a strong 8.5, because this for me works as both a wildlife photograph and possibly even as a landscape photograph. Okay, let's start with the next photograph that caught my eye, which is the image of the mountain. And this photograph is fantastic, by the way. It's a great black and white shot, and it's very difficult, in my opinion, to get a landscape photograph in black and white. It's actually quite hard, and I can see this picture in color, because what I love about it is that he is sort of isolated. The light has hit the side of the mountain quite nicely, and it's got such a nice peak to it that it almost feels like this thing is alien somewhat. He's really isolated a section of the mountain off, and the sun itself has illuminated a part of the mountain in such a way that I feel that I could even picture this in color without even, I mean, I could take away the black and white and I can look at this and I think, wow, this would have been incredible in color. But it also works in black and white. And I tell you why it works in black and white. I think this works in black and white because of the cloud that's in the middle of the photograph. It kind of adds a quirky dimension to it. It sort of breaks apart the monotony of what the basic mountain shot would be. Not to say that if the cloud wasn't there, it still wouldn't be a good image. It probably would be. But I think the cloud gives it kind of a different personality. So yeah, I would say that this is a very, very good image. Yeah, it's fantastic. Well done, man. Well done. Okay, this image is an image I wish I had taken myself. This image is freaking awesome. I have to say, Adrian, I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm just gonna like leave it right here. But yeah, you guys can check it out. I'm gonna leave it on screen anyway for you guys to have a look. But the sharpness of this image is insane. It's insane. However, having said that this is a strong image, because it is, the only thing that I would have done differently, if I'm being completely honest and critical, I would have gone into Lightroom or Photoshop, and I would have gone into the camera raw function, and the background, I would have actually reduced the texture of it, because I can see it's a little bit on the noisy side. However, the actual animal, the animal itself is so sharp, and even the foliage that's around the animal, like the trees, the leaves and the roughage, all of that, it doesn't necessarily have to be as sharp as the animal, because obviously what the main subject is, it's important that it is in focus. And in this case, it is very clearly in focus. But yeah, like I said, if I was being incredibly critical, I'd say that the background itself, I would have reduced the texture and made it just that slightly bit smoother. I'd like to talk about this image here briefly. And I'm not the biggest fan of the subject, because I'm not a huge, I guess you could say this is maybe I would classify this as a macro shot, but I'm not a huge macro photography fan. I mean, I love macro when it works really well, and especially when you're photographing something that you need to photograph in macro 100%. And I would argue that for me, macro photography is the strongest when you're focusing on things like insects and wildlife photography very, very close up. That for me is the strongest version of, or how I would approach macro photography. However, the reason why I'm pulling this photograph up is because I think out of all of the images under this link that he sent me to review, this one has one of the strongest color corrections and tone corrections that I have seen across the board. He has really considered how the greens, the oranges, the browns, and the yellows come into play when they contrast against the almost red and purple of the mushroom. And I think that's really where, in some cases, a successful photographer, you can determine between the average and the professional. Because what Adrian has done here, I think not necessarily the subject is interesting, but what's fantastic about this photograph is, like I said, it's the color. And it's the way that he's applied the tones. This image to me is strong because of that. It's strong because he has added the perfect amount of contrast, the perfect amount of highlights. It's not too dark, it's not too bright. It's kind of like the execution of the image. He set the bar on this. So I have to say, well done on this photograph for being the most successfully color graded image out of the entire collection that you've sent me. Well done. Well, thank you for making it until the end of the video. I really do appreciate you all sticking around and staying tuned, and I really do hope you've enjoyed this mini review. I guess a review in general, because I've actually really enjoyed reviewing Adrian's work. I think it's an absolutely fantastic portfolio. He's a hell of a photographer with an absolutely fantastic understanding of landscape photography, wildlife photography, and really has set the bar, I think, in my opinion, for the best of what I think you can expect from the Facebook groups that I manage of photography. So yeah, if there's any advice I'd give to everyone is step it up. Get on Adrian's standard, because this kind of portfolio is the type of photographs that I'm looking for. So yeah, well done. Thank you again so much to Adrian for submitting this body of work. It's been an absolute pleasure reviewing it. I'll leave a link to Adrian's IG, Instagram down below, as well as all the social links. Hit the bell button to get notified for future videos, and subscribe. And thank you once again for checking out Photographers Network channel. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace, guys.